So here on eBay, I'm going to be selling some of my old Iwata airbrushes. The Iwata airbrushes come in different models. These are both the HP, which stands for High Performance, BCS, which is the bottom cup system. But there's a slight difference in how these airbrushes disassemble. So in this case, they both use the same handle, the same chucking screw, which goes in the back here, same needle. So they both look exactly the same. But if we break down this airbrush, I'm going to release the tension. And I'm going to remove this back section. And you'll see what happens is they both have a spring and they both have this back piece. But this piece right here is called the auxiliary lever. It's actually called the chucking guide with auxiliary lever, and it's all one piece. There are other airbrushes, the same model. They're both the exact same model. When I release this piece here and I take out everything, you will see they both have a spring, but notice that the chucking guide in one case has the auxiliary lever on it, and in the other case it doesn't. So it's the same airbrush model, and on eBay it's almost impossible to tell the difference. The difference is with this model, they both have a trigger. The auxiliary lever is a separate piece. And because it's a separate piece, sometimes removing it for cleaning, which you won't do very often, is a little tricky. So here is the piece. This is the auxiliary lever. It attaches just by friction only to the chucking guide. So I want to show you, if you buy one of my airbrushes on eBay and you get either of them, they both work exactly the same, but I want to show you the reassembly. In both cases, you're going to start by taking the trigger, making sure this little indentation is facing toward the back. You're going to drop the plunger and find the hole, and it does take a second, and it's kind of just by feel. But once you find it, it will sort of have this spring action. So this one's set. In this case, I simply place in the chucking guide with the auxiliary lever in, put the spring back on, and simply screw the back housing together. And this airbrush is together and ready to have the needle put back into it. In which case, I'll just take the needle, put it in. Now with this one, it's just one more step. So again, I'm going to have that small indentation. If you can see that, there's a small indentation toward the back. It works the exact same way. I simply feel for where that plunger fits in, and it is just more by feel, but once you get it in, it'll sort of be springy. Now here's the difference. We have to take the auxiliary lever and put it in by hand. It goes in first. So the way the auxiliary lever is shaped, it sort of looks like a reverse C. So the top part of this lever, the top part, has to have its curve facing the trigger. The bottom part has its curve facing back, or you're going to put the fat end down. The fat end goes down, and there's a hole for the needle. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to put it in and then give it a turn. So as it goes in, I just give it a slight turn, and it will rest right up against the trigger. So hopefully you can see there a little bit, depending upon the focus, it's resting right up against the trigger. Now with it resting up against the trigger, you're going to take your needle chuck, and the needle chuck is slotted. It'll only go in one way. So you can spin it around, it'll find its home. And once you get it in, you can see I'm moving it back and forth, and that's seated. Then you're going to take the back piece and screw it on. And amazingly, that independent piece probably won't fall out because of the spring tension. The spring tension is enough that the auxiliary lever won't pop out. But what will definitely make sure it's not going to come out is when you push the needle through, everything is together. Now I can actually pull the chucking guide back, and you can see there's that auxiliary lever floating free. But it's not going to fall out because the needle's through. So it's very rare that you have to clean this part of the gun, but if you do, I've just showed you how to disassemble both of them. If you get either of these in my eBay auction, it won't matter a bit. They both work exactly the same way. But I wanted you to know how you reassemble one that has the separate auxiliary lever with the chucking guide compared to the one that has everything all as one. There's just a little trick if you ever have to disassemble it. And again, you should rarely have to disassemble this portion of the gun to clean it. Almost all the cleaning happens in front and removing the needle to clean it. So almost all cleaning is happening in the front or just removal of the back. But if you do get one of my airbrushes that has the removable auxiliary lever, they work just fine. And it's just one little trick to getting that in is just to place it in flat way and then give it a turn.